Hello, God's good people. How are y'all doing today? I pray that all is well and that y'all are prospering in the Lord and growing in His favor and grace. Today I want to talk to y'all about part 2 for Joseph's coat. I know it was very short, the last one that I did, and probably left a lot of questions. My husband had a question, my mom had a question about it. And so I just wanted to come back and clarify some things with Joseph, because when you're sharing things, then in your mind, you have your thoughts, right? And thinking that people are getting what you're saying, and sometimes it's not always the case. So follow up for how the Lord shared it with me. So I'll expound a little bit more. Maybe the last one was a bit rushed. So hopefully I don't rush this one. But, I'm wearing my hat today too, because it was a different type of a day, going through some physical therapy. I don't know if y'all know that. Physical therapy for my shoulder and also for my hands, but we are doing very well and improving. So as far as Joseph goes, I'm going to read a couple things just to kind of touch up on what was discussed in the first episode about Joseph's coat. I was stating how that coat got him into trouble, not meaning that he was wearing the exact same coat, because we know the first coat that he had, the coat of many colors that his dad Jacob gave him, was, tainted with blood that his brothers, dipped in some animal blood and took it to their dad to say, hey, he was attacked by an animal and killed. Knowing all along, they ripped that coat off and sold him into slavery, right? And so that was one coat. And then as we progress in time and travel with him to Egypt, then we see that, he's gained favor again. God has blessed him. And Potiphar, who was an Egyptian. And actually, let me read exactly who Potiphar was. Genesis 39, verse 1 tells us Joseph had been taken down to Egypt. And then Potiphar, an Egyptian who was one of Pharaoh's officials, the captain of the guard, bought him from the Ishmaelites who had taken him there. And the Lord was with Joseph so that he prospered, and he lived in the house of his Egyptian master, in Potiphar's house. And when his master, saw that the Lord was with him and that the Lord gave him success in everything that he did, Joseph found favor in his eyes and became his attendant. Potiphar put him in charge of his household, and he entrusted to his care everything that he owned. So, we know that Joseph has this favor everywhere. Joseph is almost like he's just born in favor, right? His dad, his wife, Rachel, was the favorite wife, the one he really wanted. And then he got deceived. And then he got Leah. And then she had all these kids. And when he had gotten Rachel, she was barren. And she finally started having children, and she had Joseph and she had Benjamin, right? And they were really his favorite because they came from the wife that he really loved. And so, I can imagine at that time that if it's like how women can be catty, she could have been feeding improper messages or lies to her sons about their dad. And so they could have had a hatred or, a certain feeling towards him and everything that he cared for, including Rachel, the other wife, including her kids, Joseph, and then Benjamin, and just not like anything to do with the other wife. So we don't know. It could have been a catty type of situation. And so then you have this where Joseph has this favor. His brothers definitely don't like him. And he's probably, I don't know, I can only imagine if it's anything like, most humans are. And if the situation is the same, then he's probably trying to win their favor, win their confidence, or win over their affection, right? He's performing really hard to get their attention. He has this dream. He wants to share it. He has this coat. He wants to share it and tell them what he has and look at what Father gave me. Maybe it was in his naivety. I don't know. But we see where it led him, bragging about what he had, is how they saw it. And sometimes when you have favor in your life, you're just sharing in excitement, but people who are jealous don't see it that way, right? And so they, put him in a hole. Reuben was going to go back and get him. And, but his brother sold him, actually. But God can turn those things around. What the enemy meant for evil, we know God always will turn it around for his good. So he gets to Potiphar's house, and Joseph has found favor with Potiphar. And has been made, pretty much the guy in charge of everything except for what Potiphar's going to eat. And of course, Joseph already knows the wife is hands off. He knows better than that. But, as time goes on, even with that, Potiphar decides she sees him every day. She sees the favor of God on him. She likes him more than she likes her husband. And the day that she wants to seduce him, surprisingly, the house is empty. Joseph would always stay away from her because she tried this thing every single day to try and entice him according to what the scripture says. And this particular day, she gets it to where it's just him and her. And she tries to get him to sleep with her. And instead of falling for that, Joseph has on his cloak and he runs out of it. Now, he didn't run out of his coat of many colors with his brothers. Those are his brothers. They just ripped it off of him. But with her, he was like, listen, it ain't that serious. It's not that important. My life is more important. And he ran out of the coat, left her holding it, right? And so that's what I meant by bringing up this other coat. It wasn't the same. And so then he gets thrown in prison, right? And guess what happens there? That favor is still on his life. God is still with him. God has not left him in any of his situations. When his brothers were rejecting him, before they threw him in the hole, when his brothers threw him in the hole, when he got sold to slavery, when he was in Potiphar's house, when she lied on him and then he gets thrown in jail, God is still with him when he's in jail, because we continue to read and listen to what happens. This says, Genesis 39, verse 20 through 23. Joseph's master took him and put him in prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined. But while Joseph was there in the prison, the Lord was with him. He showed him kindness and granted him favor in the eyes of the prison warden. So the warden put Joseph in charge of all those held in the prison, and he was made responsible for all that was done there. The warden paid no attention to anything under Joseph's care, because the Lord was with Joseph and gave him success in whatever he did. Even in prison, still successful because of God's favor and put over everything. So it didn't matter that, his coat of many colors taken away. It didn't matter that he ran out of that other coat when he had authority over everything that belonged to Potiphar. He let that one go because she was trying to have him. And then he gets to the prison, and he's got authority again over all the prisoners, okay? And God is with him. And then listen to what God does next. We know about the dream with the baker and all that, and the servant of the king, of Pharaoh. And of course, they forget about him and all. And he interprets their dream, tell them, hey, don't forget about me. They do. Some time goes on, and they recall when Pharaoh has a dream that disturbs him and he doesn't understand. Then the one that was still alive recalls, hey, there's this guy in prison who knows how to interpret dreams. Bring him here. That guy is Joseph. So Joseph stands before Pharaoh. He interprets the dream and tells him a plan of action of what he should do. Joseph suggested that Pharaoh find someone else to delegate the food and, the things that were needed to be done, a plan of action. Joseph suggested someone who was wise in all the land. And so Pharaoh asked the question, well, Do any of y'all know anybody like that? Nobody knew anybody wiser than what Joseph had presented himself to be because of the favor of the Lord. And so that's when Pharaoh said, you're going to be the one in charge, okay? And listen to what Pharaoh did. Genesis 41, verse 41 through 43. So Pharaoh said to Joseph, I hereby put you in charge of the whole land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh took his signet ring from his finger and put it on Joseph's finger. He dressed him in robes of fine linen. He got another coat, a fine coat now, in robes of fine linen, and put a gold chain around his neck. He had him ride in a chariot as his second in command, and people shouted before him, make way. Thus he put him in charge of the whole land of Egypt. He passed so many tests, Joseph did, with that favor on his life. He didn't fall to stand bitter with his brothers. We see later on in the story that he forgives his brothers. He didn't remain bitter, and he even told them, what you meant for evil, God used for good. And then he didn't get in pride. He didn't, hey, see, I had the dream and y'all told me, who do I think I am? And now look at me, and you have to come and bow down. See, he didn't get in pride with the call on his life and that favor and the coat of honor that he was wearing now, and then he didn't allow it to distract him. He had on another coat of authority. I mean, the coat was so much and so many facets, coat of favor, coat of honor, coat of, so much that it was, for us, our coat of righteousness, but through Christ. But it can get you into so much trouble, not that you've done anything wrong necessarily, but because of the favor of God on your life and people see you with that coat that God is covering you, they mistreat you or mishandle you. Or because of your naivety, and as you're growing and learning, as we saw Joseph did, he didn't think much of it to share it. He was like, hey, this is what I dreamed. This is what I saw. Look at what Dad gave me. And, just trying to win over his brothers pretty much. But he gets this robe, these robes of fine linen, gets the coat, gold chain put on him. He's put in charge of the whole land of Egypt. Pharaoh gave Joseph a new name, Zephanath Paneah, however you pronounce that, and gave him Asenath. Listen to who his wife was. She was the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On, to be his wife. And Joseph went throughout the land of Egypt. So before you had an imitation of a wife, I would say, of a woman in his life, where that was Potiphar's wife trying to seduce him. That was the enemy's plan. That wasn't God's plan. And he escaped from that. He fled from that fornication. He fled, however the word is. He fled that situation and left that coat. But in this situation, he was given his robes of fine linen, and God blessed him with the daughter of Potiphar, the priest of On. Whereas Potiphar, he was the captain. He was an Egyptian captain, right? Over of the guard, Potiphar. And then he gets Potiphar. His Potiphar is the name of his wife's dad. And Potiphar was the name of the captain whose wife was trying to seduce him. So it's just interesting how God has the real thing and Satan has the imitation. Potiphar's wife and then Potiphar's daughter. And Potiphar was a priest. He was a priest and had a daughter for Joseph. Y'all know, I understand what I'm getting. I don't want to ramble on about it, but I just think that it's so interesting, the favor of God and the coat that he had to wear. The, one could seem to say it was a coat of favor. Another one seemed to be a coat of disgrace. Another one was a coat, where it was, he had it stripped away from him. He ran up out of it. He gave it up, whatever it was. And then he was clothed in a robe. It's so similar also to what we can expect in life and in death, and we're clothed with the cloak of humility. We're clothed with righteousness, right? God's righteousness. And then we get a robe. When we go to glory, we receive our robe and our crown. And so there's so much similarity. But as we walk out this life, then just, we have to understand the things that may come to attack us because of the call of God on our lives or the favor of God on our lives. And everyone can see it. And God continues to elevate us, which is so amazing. And like how he elevated Joseph. And I just think that was awesome. And so for me, it was just really zoning in on the coat. Not necessarily that it was the same coat, but it was just amazing how he changed out the coats and how the coat played such a significant role throughout his life. A coat, where he had to let one go. He had one given, and then, it was just amazing. So if y'all have any questions about it, please let me know. Hope this wasn't too long and that it expounded a bit more. I took my time. I tried to. And love y'all. And I pray that you are blessed.